With the quorum being present, I would now like to call to order the May 30th, 2019 meeting of the Board of Directors. Directors have received the agenda materials in advance of this meeting and are free to ask questions or action items today. Please note, however, questions or comments from the audience will not be entertained this meeting. As a reminder to the directors, the trust has decided to approve a number of board action items through a consent agenda process, in which the directors would approve the board resolutions as one motion and vote without sending each agenda item to the president. Generally, these agenda items are for contracts with smaller dollar amounts, or operational in nature, and routine board items such as the approval of the minutes from the last board meeting. Therefore, all board memos and resolutions on today's agenda have been posted on the trust website and are thus available. Do any directors wish to comment? Use themselves for the item. If not, I will call for a motion to approve all the resolutions agenda items listed. Second? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, as the motion is approved, all resolutions for the agenda items listed on the Board of Directors consent agenda are hereby adopted. Next item before the board is request for the authorization to amend the contract with New York City Parks Department for park-wide security services. We have.
Thank you.
Okay, Elizabeth.
Alyssa is recusing herself. Therefore, has to step out of the. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. The Parks Enforcement Patrol, or PEP, has been providing 24/7 security services to Hudson River Park since 2004 through a contract and as amended between the Trust and the New York City Department. The last substantive amendment was approved by the board at its September 28, 2017 meeting to address an increase in the work week for PEP employees from 35 to 40 hours and the increase in the fringe benefit rate by 2.01% for PEP staff. At its December 6, 2019 meeting, the board authorized and ratified an amendment to the PEP contract to extend the term through March 31st. At its December 6, 2018 meeting, the board authorized and ratified an amendment to the PEP contract to extend the term through March 31st, 2019, and increase the authorized amount by $1.5 million for that 9-month period. The current PEP contract expired on March 31st, 2019. The PEP has continued to provide services at the request of trust staff. The proposed amendment and restated agreement would authorize the continued provision of PEP services from April 1, 2019 to March 31st, 2020, and provides for 2 additional 1-year renewal terms exercisable at the option of the trust, which options would expire March 31st, 2022. The amendment adds 1 additional PEP officer, states the patrol areas, and includes funding for special events and additional bike safety details as determined by the trust in consultation with PEP. The trust thus seeks board approval to amend the PEP contract at an amount of $10,223,356 for the 3-year period.
Questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item before the board is a request to enter into the collective bargaining agreement with Local 30, the International Union of Operating Engineers.
Thank you. Local 30 of the International Union of Operating Engineers has represented facilities, motor pool, and horticulture employees in the trust operations and facilities department since 2012. The members are recognized as a bargaining unit by the New York State Public Employment Relations Board. The current collective bargaining agreement was approved by the trust board at its May 26, 2016 meeting and expires on March 21st, 2021. The trust is currently experiencing a problem recruiting qualified new and replacement staff at the current wage scale. In most instances, wages must be offered to newly hired staff exceeding the rates of existing employees with several years' tenure. A check of union salaries at other agencies, which we do every couple of years, suggests that the trust wage scale is approximately $5,000 lower for comparable positions. To address this issue, Trust Management recommends instituting an equity pay adjustment of $5,000 for union staff employed more than 6 months and earning less than $70,000 annually, and $2,500 for those making $70,000 or more. The incremental cost of these increases is approximately $65,000. In return for implementing these equity adjustments, Trust Management has bargained for a new term extending 3 years beyond the existing agreement, or to March 31st, 2024. Wage increases for the years ending March 31st, 2022 and 23 will match the greater of 2% and the average merit increase granted to non-union staff. The increase for the last year ending March 31st, 2024 will be the average merit increase granted to non-executive non-union trust staff in excess of 1.5%. The agreement also provides that union employees may participate in the trust health and other benefit programs on the same basis as the trust non-union employees. The trust believes that this has a negotiated wage package that is fair, given current economic conditions, and in line with other recent New York State public service labor agreements. The trust therefore requests board authorization to enter a collective bargaining agreement extension with Local 30 of the International Union of Operating Engineers for a term through March 31st, 2024. And this morning, Local 30 ratified this proposed agreement. Questions?
Yeah.
So you have been here for many years, and several years ago, we actually investigated how we were paying trust staff and determined that in many cases our wages were lower than city and state comparable pay in certain areas, and we made, as our budget allowed, we made a lot of equity adjustments through the years. And I think just in terms of the market being very tight right now and the economy being very, very good, it's just it's very difficult hiring people unless we are able to raise those salaries. And so we've compared it to other authorities as well, not just the city and state, and found that if we want to get quality people, we needed to do adjustment of that. Well, we started lower many years ago. We were really low years ago. Well, evening there, B. Take a vote.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to second? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next item from the board, request for authorization to amend the contract with EIC Associates, Inc., Morton Street bulkhead restoration.
Thank you. At its January 26, 2017 meeting, the board authorized the trust to enter into a contract with EIC Associates for the Morton Street bulkhead restoration work. The contract, which was procured in the form of a lump sum bid for all work, commenced in early 2017, and work was completed in late 2018. The work was complex and difficult because of several factors, including the condition of the bulkhead, its historic status, and both subsurface and tidal conditions. The work required the use of highly specialized equipment that is limited in quantity and available in the United States, and it traveled far and wide to get to New York City each time we had difficulty actually pile driving. We had to get a different piece of equipment. Once construction commenced, it was determined that the pile length did not achieve the required load capacity. Therefore, the piles needed to be lengthened in order to reach bedrock. In order to finally close out this contract now, the work is complete. EIC has requested a series of change orders of approximately $2.7 million in connection with lengthening the piles, the increased rental costs for the specialized equipment, which included the jack-up barge, a specialized pile driver, and the extended use of a secondary crane. After careful review of the change order proposals over many, many months, the engineering specifications and other criteria, and considerable negotiations between trust staff and EIC principals, the parties have reached consensus to move forward with a final change order of approximately $1.3 million, which is less than half of what EIC had originally. As some contingency funds previously approved by the board remain available, trust staff now seeks board authorization to amend the contract with EIC Associates in the amount of $1,075,832. I do want to say that the entire project, which has been going on for several years already, including the upland, is near completion, which you'll see later, and that the entire contract for Warden Street is still under budget for the total project cost.
Great. Any questions?
Who's the engineer?
Musa Rutledge.
And is it fair to say that mistake?
We're in current discussions with them.
What was the total cost?
It's 16 million and 800 and something $1,000. It's the entire area between Morton Street, Bulkhead, and all the way up to Route 9 driveway. We had to redo the piles, the voids, the whole esplanade, the sinking. It was a major reconstruction.
That's just something. The water, I assume that's always.
Well, it will. You'll see some pictures. It's going to actually open fully. They laid the sod yesterday. So,
They're busy.
Anybody else? Questions? Motion to approve the second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The next item before the board is a request for authorization to amend the contract with Trent Construction Company for Pier 40 structural repairs.
thank you. At its January 25th, 2018 meeting, the board approved two separate contracts for phases 1 and 2 of the comprehensive Pier 40 pilot and underdeck repair program with Weeks Marine and Trev Construction Company. The scope of work for each of these contracts included underdeck repairs. Underdeck repairs have proven to be more extensive than anticipated, and both Weeks and TrevCon were asked to submit proposals for adjusted unit prices for this additional work. TrevCon's proposed adjusted unit prices were significantly more favorable to the trust Weeks underdeck repairs, and so we wanted to award all incomplete repair work to TrevCon instead of Weeks. The existing contracts with both firms allows for such adjustments. To complete the phases 1 and 2 underdeck repair work, TrevCon's contract needs to be amended for up to an additional $906,000. Approximately $425,000 of contingency that had been approved already by the board for the Weeks contract will remain unused. And I want to also say that the contracts that you originally approved were under our estimates for the project, so we feel that we are still in quite good shape. The trust therefore seeks board authorization to amend the TrevCon contract for Pier 40 structural restoration construction work in an amount not to exceed $906,000 for a total board authorization amount of $8,065,606.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the contract?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
I was prepared to talk about shotcrete. Nobody wants to hear about it, but
You
it's
do
okay.
need to.
It's okay.
This is
It's
a place
okay.
where you can.
Rebar and shotcrete, prepared to discuss
Yeah.
how this rebar and how to
That rebar back.
it was missing.
Where did it go?
And now we have to shotcrete the entire underdeck, but we'll put that aside and move on.
Thank you. Okay, the next item before the board is the request to pre-qualify the proposed list of on-call law for legal services.
Thank you. On October 30th, 2018, the trust issued a request for proposals for pre-qualification of legal services pursuant to the trust procurement guidelines. The RFP invited law firms to submit proposals in the following areas of law: real estate, construction, environmental and land use, labor and employment, and regulatory compliance and litigation. On December 17, 2018, the trust received proposals from 24 law firms based on the evaluation criteria set forth in the RFP. Trust staff recommends that the board of directors approve 11 of the law firms as pre-qualified to provide legal services to the trust when needed over the next 5-year period, including Bond Schenck, Carter Ledger, Herrick Feinstein, Holland and Knight, Phillips Nizer. Only 2 names on each law firm were approved: Rosaria and Associates, Shiv Harden, Showman Updike, Cy Paget, Tully Rinke, and West Group Law. Oh, that's 3 words. The fees proposed by the law firms vary based on the firm's size, location, and areas of expertise. However, maximum rate for a partner is set up at $500 per hour for the first 3 years. That's consistent with what we've been paying in the last couple of years. The general counsel will only engage law firms on an as-needed basis, and in no case would any individual retainer agreement that exceeds $200,000 go ahead without prior board approval. The engagement of outside counsel also cannot exceed the overall budget for outside legal services as approved by the board of directors each year, which for the current fiscal year is $500,000. The trust therefore requests board authorization to pre-qualify the proposed law firms provided in the table contained with the board memo for a 5-year period in an amount up to and in accordance with the trust's annual operating budget.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, I saw in the presentation that we get pro bono services as well. Is that in fact? I know we get reduced rates. We get pro bono services. Thanks.
These firms respond with like, specific.
Yes, as lead counsel, yes. Mm-hmm.
They were better.
Yes.
And of course, they're glad for bono work. They was, they're not stopping them.
We have no problem asking people for free work.
Right.
And I would imagine to the extent we're giving them paid work, maybe we could also encourage them to take on pro bono.
Yes, but we have many counsel who receive over $1,000 an hour who are working also for $500 an hour, so they perceive it as somewhat pro bono work.
Is that a blended rate, or is that the associates could get paid $600?
No.
Oh, no.
So 500. So the associates are
They would get less than the partner.
Got
Pro semi-bono.
I'm sorry?
Pro semi-bono.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing to
so moved.
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item before the board is a request to confirm the Hudson River Park mission statement.
Thank you. In accordance with public authorities law, state and local public authorities are required to develop and adopt a mission statement and related performance measures to assist the authority in determining how well it is carrying out its mission. The trust adopted its mission statement and developed performance measures to evaluate the trust's fulfillment of its mission in 2010. The board must therefore annually review the trust mission statement and measure its performance in carrying out its mission. The 2019 performance measures were shared with the Trust Governance Committee, and a copy of the mission statement and performance measures have been provided to all directors. Trust staff welcomes any discussion by the directors regarding the Trust mission statement and its performance measures for the past year, and thus seeks confirmation of the Trust mission statement and approval of the 2019 performance measures by the Board of Directors. And the Governance Committee will be meeting again in September. So any, certainly can get us before, but after. But we would be, and we think we should in September.
Great.
We do need a vote.
Oh, we do? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. It sounds like we're all ready to vote on this. Is there no comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Sorry about that. Great. Okay. Is there any further business? Further approval items considered today, may I please have a motion to raise the books? Next, sorry.
Thank you. I will begin with some good news related to the park. First, the Pier 51 playground at Jane Street opened to the public on May 11th. Here we go with we have the upland work. Okay. The upland work from Morton to Christopher Streets is also very close to completion, and the full section of Esplanade will be open to the public before the end of June. And as I informed the directors by email, the next item is that we have closed on the La Lazarian air rights transfer earlier this month, and we were wired approximately $11.2 million on May 10th. And as a reminder, those projects from that air rights sale are going to projects in Ward 4 that were identified in a letter to the chair of city planning at the time of this ULIP process. The Douglaston closing is scheduled to occur tomorrow, and we would then receive $37 million from that transaction. And again, those proceeds are already planned out in the area within the board. The trust has also distributed the 2019 Summer of Fun calendar events. Upcoming events include free dance lessons in the park, the annual highly popular Hudson River Dance Festival on June 6th and 7th, free concerts including jazz at Pier 84 and Sunset on the Hudson at Pier 45, and movie nights at Piers 46 and 63. The 2019 Summer Fun calendar is included in your board packets, and of course, it's also on our website. On May 19th and 20th, the Hudson River Park's launching of its Park Over Plastics program was well received by the news media, both on TV, including ABC, CBS, and New York One, and printed news. The trust has now ceased nearly all purchases of single-use plastics at its office and operational areas, and has vetted suitable green alternatives, and we keep updating them as more become available. The trust has also asked its tenants and occupants to do the same and sign a green partnership agreement. So far, 13 tenants and occupants have become green partners. The trust also is in the process of installing additional recycling bins throughout the park, as well as bottle fillers with water fountains and portable hydration stations in key areas to encourage park goers to make use of reusable water bottles. The Trust Estuary Lab will continue to conduct microplastic research and marine debris cleanups on the park shoreline to both increase scientific understanding and to remove plastics from the estuary. Following my President's report, the Trust Estuary Lab will provide a brief presentation about the Trust educational programs offering in the park. And I also want to say that we have also hired a firm that audits the waste that will be coming from our tenants and in our own trash bins.
And I'm giggling because that's why I'm thirsty.
By the way, what happened to the water? These are the best. Who got some water?
And the bathroom.
So we are not actually encouraging using these. These are the most plastic-free paper water bottles we can find with plant-based cap, but we're actually trying to encourage our constituents to not even use these, but it's a process.
For your gaze.
And you're all welcome to attend the Estuary Labs Park Over Plastics kickoff event on June 5th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. with a shoreline cleanup along Pier 76, followed by a panel discussion at the Classic Car Club with our very own Anna Koskol and Carrie Rowe. Carrie. I shared with all directors the proposed legislation for Pier 40 prepared by Assemblymember Glick's office. And I appreciate the many directors that attended this past Tuesday evening. As we have discussed, the bill as proposed by Assemblymember Glick would not allow us to achieve the goal of providing public open space and space for the trust and other not-for-profits within Pier 40, and also would not allow us to achieve the $12.5 million in revenue that we need to maintain the park. We also do not expect that many developers would submit a proposal in response to an RFP with the lease term and other restrictions laid out in the proposed bill. Trust, its directors, and many in the public spoke on Tuesday evening of our concerns with the proposed bill. Out of 56, including Trust, staff, and board, about 3/4 of the speakers either supported the Trust position or supported more open space while open to office space on the pier, if that's what gets us to a successful project. Members of the community board stuck to their newly held position that any building should only be adaptive reuse, which did not seem to reflect the position of the ball field users or many others in the room. In addition, they argued that office use shouldn't be located in the park and that the park should receive more government money to subsidize the park's operations instead of relying on Pier 40. That would be fine with us if that were to actually occur. And we do appreciate how far Assemblymember Glick and other elected officials have come on this issue in an effort to find an acceptable compromise. But unfortunately, the draft legislation falls far short of what the board, staff, and outside consultants have concluded is viable. The trust has said that we could accept a height limit of 88 feet plus mechanicals, potentially commit to 60% of the equivalent of the footprint for open space, but such compromise is only possible if we can secure a 99-year lease, ability to have both new or adaptive reuse scenarios in any RFP, and at least 880,000 square feet of commercial office space, plus other commercial uses on top. We did not expect to be pushed on all of these items, since our position is that we have already compromised significantly from where we were during Community Board 2's 2017 process. The legislative session ends on June 19th. If we do not get to success by then, we will find ourselves once again with a building that is still in need of emergency repairs, that remain unfunded, such as the roof on the south shed. As we have discussed, the south shed may need to be closed in the next year, including the ball field upstairs, unless funds are found to repair the roof. In addition, we have been monitoring the courtyard ball fields, which are in poor condition, including the clogged up drainage system, and they also need to be replaced. Trust staff will continue meeting with our Pier 40 working group members to determine if there's any other creative thinking on this issue and see if there is an acceptable solution between the elected officials, community, and the trust. I'd like to open this up for discussion. This,
Anything to say?
I mean, we've been through many years of conversation, and every year that we cannot get this done, all that happens is that the building gets more dilapidated, and we run, a scenario of continuing to try to find money for all these repairs. The repairs that we have not addressed are about $30 million. We're currently addressing about $4 or $5 million of emergency repairs, which we've approved on various occasions over the last year.
To me, the biggest issue is stand and ensure.
I would say my takeaway from the hearing, I mean, I wasn't tracking it, but I would say the people that use the they have to, they just go the for the best and seem to understand the equipment and a little less. I hear there's some out there, just museums and all. So but that was, gave me some confidence. And
The other pie in the sky is, we've been at this for a long time, and not once have we gotten an offer from either the state or the city, money. So we have to come up with it, and the way we come up with it is through having an RFP that's actually full for somebody. Not brought enough money, so that. And we've had no indication from anybody that money is coming from. So, if this doesn't go through, I'm really tired of working on this. Just personally, that's my own personal opinion.
But we are stuck with it, so.
Yeah.
It's a legacy asset.
It's a legacy asset. And by that I mean, I personally and be very averse to putting any money in it. It's not going to turn the build out space and support the park the way it was originally intended in the legislation. That's right.
We did say 7 years ago, just been
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to stick to it because we can't,
Yeah.
we don't want
I think it was actually.
to, you have to deal with an one.
Right.
Douglas?
I'm not sure that just getting 29 years is sufficient, that you need to reduce, somebody pay for the open space and limit on commercial space. If possible. Actually,
Agreed.
You know,
Well-
I haven't been at it as long as some of you have been, but the fact that you're going to get this legislation and then you're going to go through another city process where whatever you start out with, you're not going to end up.
Right.
Right? I mean, so to the extent that the numbers you have are your sort of optimal numbers, common sense would say you start with something bigger than that, if you want to, you know, I mean, so, and I don't want to sort of get there because I wasn't part of all the initial analysis that led to that, but I think we need to be fairly comfortable that if we did get those numbers, that this is, because once the legislation is in place, it's, you know,
Well, if we can't
getting there
get,
is taking so many years.
Yeah.
To modify it in any way is going to be impossible.
we are all, you know, we have to get to a place where we all feel comfortable. If we can't get there, you know, all I have to say is, I know I keep saying is that we will have to figure out what to do with this pier, because it is, every day this pier is decomposing. So it was not meant for all. It's fabulous. It is not. It was never meant to last this long, and it's past its useful life, and we're throwing a lot of good money after bad at this point.
I think that
Less even than tournament to just for negotiating against ourselves. Once it's procedure, and so you have to be doubly sure that those numbers will generate. So I wonder if you could talk about if you close this, when, what would the timeline be that?
Well, we've already closed the top, the roof and the second floor of the shed, but the baseball field, and we closed the passive field on the roof already. And then next to that is a baseball field, and that is still open because the roof under that is not in quite as bad condition as the rest of it. But, you know, it's just a matter of time. I mean, we have engineers that are out there on a regular eye on it. And, you know, it could be a year. But it's one way or the other, it's inevitable. As is, the courtyard fields are way past their useful life. They're already about 14 years old, and they are a 10-year field, plus the entire drainage system is clogged, which means you have to rip everything up, clear out the drains, and or replace them, which we can't know until we rip it up. So it's a major operation, and those fields are, you know, there will be a day that those fields in not too distant future would have to be closed or redone. And that's just the way it is.
Madeline, where's the state senate?
Pardon me?
The state senate?
Who is it?
No, well, yeah, but what have they? Are you expecting they're going to introduce this as well, or where are they?
We're attempting to send more material to them on Monday, trying to reframe what we need, and reframe it another way to why we need what we need, because we think we've explained it in many different ways, but somehow it's may not be getting through. So we're going to try to do that again on Monday, and hopefully continue to have discussions with them, because we have 3 weeks, and things can move slowly, not move. They can move quickly. It's hard to know, but the board has made it very clear that based on what we have now, it's not acceptable. So that's where we are.
And has that position been?
Very much so, yes. In testimony, in, yes, very much so. Yeah. And we have pro bono consultants, people testifying. Our board was good enough to testify. Everybody was very much on the same page in terms of what's possible, what's not. But where we get to is another story.
Happy now.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else you wanted?
Sorry, I lost my place here. Okay. So, before I continue with any other items, I understand, that directors would like to discuss if there's a need to hire an engineering firm and construction consultant to examine the structural capacity further than what we've done already for Pier 40 and the costs and timing related to using the existing piers and fields with the new development. Director Durst, would you like to?
Thank you. Yes, I'm concerned, well, on the optimistic assumption that we do get legislation that enables us to go forward. I think when we come out with an RFP, we need to have a baseline that bidders can rely on so that everybody is using the same assumption as far as the capabilities of your structure. Not that they would hire their own engineers. This will be a baseline changes they want. So I recommend that we hire an engineer whose opinion the bidders can rely on, and that these give us a good idea as to what to have, give them everybody bidding position.
I think it's a good idea. You have a contract with anybody? No risk.
But I think we should get started with an RFP.
Yes, I mean, as you know, we've done some work, first with Bureau Happel, then with Arab. We took it to a certain extent, so we can certainly figure out a way to further that. And I think, honestly, we should just do that no matter what happens, because we will have to think about what's next on June 20th, no matter what. So it'd be good to have this information no matter what happens. Sorry, do you want to? We have some idea of what the capacity for the vertical and lateral loads are. The seismic is a real issue. The quality of the pier deck is a problem. And we are reinforcing it, but as I said before, the pier is missing a lot of rebar. And can only take a certain amount of load, and ways of making it seismic for the future are going to be very complicated, no matter what. So we have to investigate that no matter what. Reminding everybody, this building does not have a CBO, and that anything we do, we would want to get a CBO at some point.
So, Madam, based on the work you've done so far, is there a fair degree of confidence that the bulks that you think you need on this can be put on this?
We did enough study to know that what we had in concepts could be put on there, but seismic is really the big question.
But it's also unofficial.
Yes, it's unofficial, yes. Yes. We need to go further, for sure, yeah. Well, it's low.
Unclear.
Yeah, it's low. Weight is, definitely. And it's a very heavy concrete that's currently on top of the pier right now.
So I think we have a sense of the board that this is a really good idea. So go ahead that and give us something to
Mhm.
vote on. We need to vote on a contract or something? Go ahead.
I don't think we'll have to spend quite that much money.
Okay, all right, so the sense of
We
the
will
board
keep
is
everybody,
go
you
Yeah.
know,
Okay.
advised closely
But
on this.
you compare it our
Right.
Yeah, sure,
board doesn't vote.
sure, sure.
You mentioned that they're likely to get their own engineers in anyway. How do we handle different information than we propose?
That's their, what they're going to do. Everybody will, an engineer may say to them, well, you need to spend more money. That's what they'll base their bid on. Or it may unlikely say it needs less, but I doubt that. But so I don't think it's an issue if they come back with a different opinion. As long as we have our engineer who's certifying what is representing his structural capacity.
Okay. Next, thank you.
Okay, construction of Pier 26 is going well. TrevCom has completed installation of the 9 267-ton prefabricated panels supporting the ecological get-down at the west end of the pier. TrevCom is now installing large granite boulders that will serve as a breakwater and protect tidal plantings in the get-down area. Their work will be completed in September. On the remainder of Pier 26, Stephen Dubner Landscaping started site work in April. Pier 26 should be completed late summer 2020. Any questions?
This is cool. Picture this, but you can't see that from Pier 20. It's really neat.
The trust is in the process of preparing a new RFP for a consultant to design the dog run and picnic area of Chelsea Waterside Park. We expect that the RFP will be issued in June, and I'll keep the board and trust design committee up to date with this process. This is something that has been pre-designed a couple of years ago with Community Board 4. And just as a reminder, air rights money plus funds from Corey Johnson are going to this project. RXR continues to negotiate a sublease with City Winery for Pier 57, and we understand that a final sublease should be signed by the parties soon upon consent by the trust. Trust staff has reviewed and commented on the draft sublease. The layout of the City Winery space is consistent with all conversations had with the Finance Committee members over the last year, maybe more than a year. You'll have to remind me. And the drawings that I had shared with the board in January. The restaurant, winery space, and dining room space will be open to the public 6 days a week. The main venue and loft would be open at least 5 days a week in the evening and 3 days a week from 11:30 to 3 p.m. Time period. As we've done in some other leases, the sublease will limit the number of weekend closings for events during the peak May to October period, but would allow for more closures in December for holiday parties. Specific language is still being negotiated, and we will share that with you before we send anything back out. But we're waiting for comments from RXR.
Did you say when the schedule though?
I think they would have liked the sublease to have been done already, but we've been going back and forth on it, so obviously they can't start.
So they have to start.
No.
With the
I'm hoping that we have something on that for the next board meeting, or at least another discussion on that they are really having discussions with one party right now. I'm hoping, but this has taken a very long time, so I don't want to be too optimistic, but I want to be optimistic. But we haven't seen anything yet. It's just been a few discussions. They're hopefully going to come to us with a proposal soon. As a result of acquiring our CFC for the Pier 84 building, which has taken quite a long time, the trust has executed a concession agreement with the Pier 84 Hooked on the Hudson, or is it Chip Shop LLC, the name keeps changing, to operate an indoor and outdoor cafe at the building located on Pier 84 West 44th Street. The concession agreement commenced on May 1st, 2019, and the term is through December 31st, 2023, with the Pier 84 Chip Shop having an option to extend a term by another 4 years with the approval of the trust. Pier 84 Chip Shop will operate only an outdoor concession with this summer, beginning this weekend, as it proceeds with its fit out for the interior building. The annual rent, pardon me, for 1 year is $160,000, but goes up to $367,170 in year 2 and up to $409,701 in year 3. Rent thereafter increases by 3% each year. The concessionaire also pays the trust a percentage of its gross sales once its sales exceed the threshold specified in the agreement. For instance, once sales exceed $1 million, the concessionaire would pay the trust 12% of its sales over the threshold in year 1. For year 2, once its sales exceed $2,250,000, the concessionaire would pay the trust 15% of its sales over the threshold. The entire indoor portion of the restaurant, in addition to the outdoor, should be open by April 1st, 2020. And as a reminder, and as discussed in my President's Report in January, this operation is a result of an extensive but yet successful RFP process and community board meetings that have taken place over the last couple of years. Any questions? If you remember, this is where Black Tap was supposed to go, and then they pulled down, and we had to do a new RFP. Here we are. This is where Hurley's was. Okay. Trust staff and the trust landscape architect Milk presented the Pier 97 conceptual design to the Pier 97 Design Committee, which included several board members on March 29th and 2 Community Board for Waterfront, Parks, and Environment Committee on May 24th. The design was presented to Community Board 4 on, I think this was the Waterfront, Parks, and Environment Committee. I think these dates are mixed up, but on May 1st, and then to the Community Board on May 24th, resulting in a very favorable letter, which is important, which is included in your packets. The project was submitted for conceptual New York City Design Commission approval on May 24th. The design includes a playscape, multi-purpose athletic field, flexible gathering space, sun lawn, space for historic ship docking, a park building housing a comfort station, maintenance operations facility, and small concession, as well as extensive plantings. The concept design is still in the process of being tweaked, but we have spent a lot of time preparing the PVC drawings for concept. The project will also improve the entirety of the esplanade between 97 and Pier 99 and restore the adjacent New York State Route 9A bikeway. Trust staff are currently working with Milk as they refine the project elements in the schematic design. We will convene the design committee again once the design concept and moving into schematic moves forward. Any questions? Okay. Included in your board packets is a revised copy of the Trust Employee Handbook, which has been updated to address recent changes in New York State law. In the budget bill that was passed in April, the state legislature included a provision that revised paid voting time for New York employees. Employers are now entitled to a maximum of 3 hours of paid leave in order to vote in elections. Employees are also entitled to up to 4 hours of paid leave for cancer screenings. In addition to these changes, the trust revised the handbook to allow all employees to be paid by direct deposit. The prior handbook did not allow part-time employees to use direct deposit, and required former employees to return to Pier 40 to pick up the last paycheck. Revisions to the handbook were shared with the governance committee last week. We provided a complete copy of the handbook in your board packets. And as a reminder to directors, I note that the appendices included the trust code of ethical conduct and its whistleblower policy. Any questions? Your board packet also contains the Park Enforcement Police Report, 1 month of financials for fiscal year 2020, a list of all contracts between $100,000 and $200,000, and a memo providing an update on the status of FEMA reimbursements to date. And now I'd like to introduce for you our Senior Vice President of Operations and Facilities, Nick Rotundi, who joined us about a month ago. And now I'll turn this over and introduce Nicolette Witcher, our Vice President of the Trust Estuary Lab, to give you an update on the work the Trust is engaged in. I'm hoping also to give you an update next board meeting on the estuarium and other news in that realm. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. And I realize that was a long president's report, and it is after 5, so we will be brief. But we were here, well, first I want to also introduce Carrie Roble, Director of Science and Stewardship, the Estuary Lab. So we were here last year, and we were starting to introduce you to some exciting science projects that we're doing and just highlight all of the great environmental education that we're also doing. And so Madeline just thought it was a good idea if we gave you a little bit of an update of some of that progress and ongoing work. And just as a reminder, Estuary Lab, formerly known as the Education Department, has the mission to promote hands-on environmental education and interactive scientific research with the goal of promoting and understanding Hudson River Park's 400-acre estuary sanctuary. I mean, that's what makes this park such an kind of really unique creation, and it's something we really have so fully embraced. And last year, educated almost 30,000 people in May about a really important ecological role of the sanctuary, and now more and more we're doing so through really some great research and science projects in the park. So, Carrie.
Sure. Great. So in the month of May, we led a biological survey of park infrastructure at 5 different pier and pile field locations. We did a comprehensive dive survey to look at biodiversity settling on the piles. So we looked at concrete piles, timber pile fields, steel piles, and this is to better understand the service that these pile fields and pier areas are providing for animals and plants that colonize these substrates. So we are working with a scientist from New Jersey, and we also used our dive contract. But our preliminary findings, we haven't gone full analysis, but there's quite a bit of life on our piles, and particularly our concrete piles. So anecdotally, we were seeing barnacles, blue mussels, oysters, and some blue crabs, fish such as skillet fish, lots of algae. So you notice it's looking fairly brown. That is more speaking to the time of year that we did the survey. In the spring and in the fall, you would see much more vibrant sponges, colored sea anemones that are more oranges and reds. But this will be interesting because in the science community, when we talk about these structures, we've talked about them as spaces that have been void of life. And our work is showing, hopefully, that that's not exactly true, and we'll find patterns that are more interesting, hopefully, and able to color our understanding of these structures and the role they're playing. This is footage from the survey. You can see sponges, you can see tunicates, gastropods, oysters again. That's an over a 3-inch large oyster with some sponge on it. But oysters are very much, wild oysters, it's important to note, are very much present on these surfaces. And that's, speaking to the work that we've done in partnership with some of our partners, such as, Billion Oyster Project, etc. So we're excited to get our final report in the late fall, early winter of this year and share those findings.
I mean, it is important to note that not that long ago, the narrative was there really aren't any wild oysters in the Hudson anymore. So that's why studies like this are so important to document that change and to create a baseline.
Yeah. It's important to note that this hasn't happened before because really the visibility has been a constraining factor. So there's a new technology, this clear water box, that allows for us to take underwater footage and have some nice visibility to that as well. Project we wanted to share with you is our eDNA sampling program. This is a project where we're partnering with Cold Spring Harbor Lab. They're in Long Island. They have a presence in New York City, and look at biodiversity of fish species throughout the park. So we've collaborated with them to build a school-based program where students collect just a little water and that can sequence the DNA within that water and speak to the wildlife that uses Hudson River Park sanctuary waters. So this program, we piloted over the winter. We're collecting twice a month water samples at 3 different locations. Look forward to the opportunities it will provide not only in increasing awareness for migrations of fish populations or geographic use of different locations within the park, abundance, and distribution of fish populations, but also that community element. So we're integrating this program into our school classes as well as into some of our public programs, specifically one on Sundays called Open Field Lab.
Also to point out that this is an emerging field, using a drop of water to figure out what fish are going by and who's migrating when. So, we really are, again, just to kind of highlight the fact that we're able to really have such a presence in helping to see certain technology and certain research techniques really kind of develop them for the estuarine sanctuary. This technique has been used in closed water systems like the Great Lakes, but now we're really trying to have Hudson River Park Sanctuary serve as, as a pilot site to see how we can take this technology and really turn it into a very useful tool for tidal estuary. And we're also going to couple this with a public-facing piece, so like an interactive web platform, which hopefully by the end of the year, that not only what we're doing is just kind of, that's part of what I do, is to really get it out there. And so there'll be, kind of real-time or near-time information about what's going on.
And lastly, we just wanted to share an update with our 2 water quality stations. We have one at Pier 84 and are moving one from Pier 26 to Pier 25 due to construction. But we've now working with USGS. They are leading the data transmission and a lot of the quality assurance measures around this great network of water quality instruments throughout the lower Hudson. So it helped us to update these stations and also update our procedures for calibrating instruments and maintaining them. And that's important because this is an organization and therefore our data is meeting standards and can be compared throughout the nation to other like sites.
What are you measuring for?
It's measuring for salinity, dissolved oxygen, pH. It's able to look at depth. We're able to water temperature, and then we also have a meteorological station. So rain, air temperature, wind are some of the parameters. And it's every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And so the cool part is if you go to the Pier 84 boathouse, you'll see a TV monitor that's sharing that data with you in real time. So integrating data into the park is also a really important step, and the Pier 84 monitor was a nice first
And and all that information goes directly online as well. So it's used constantly by schools and researchers when they're trying to just have a baseline of what the temperature is when they're doing some other, related research. So that's it. I mean, that's some highlights anyway. That's not it. Well, there's a whole lot going on. So did you get one of those? Okay, you did. So that gives you a little snapshot of what's going on this season. This is it in a nutshell. We are doing Submerge again. Last year we had 8,500 people show up to that free public science event. So science is popular and people come out for it. And there's lots of other great activities. And if you have any questions, we'll gladly take them. But stay tuned.
Fishing.
There'll be lots of fishing. Catch and release.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, apologize, I didn't get my notes. This package a little heavier. How are you? You? Okay. Doing all right. Is there more?
Yeah, we
You? I think the most important pieces of the council where you could see the amount and the broad participation of people who have contracts in the park, community groups, and others. And we have 5 elected officials who attend, representatives who attend that meeting. And we have 5 department heads of the trust who attend those meetings. So I have to say, being a community organizer or I think there's always a rub between us and the community board. Or 2. But the collaboration of the staff, the trust, and the community groups allows an understanding and a better park. And very important amenity, and it is a world-class amenity, and there are thousands and thousands of people there each day. So that's the community engagement piece, and you'll see that. In this piece, we don't pass too many resolutions. It's more we take our role as advisory, and sometimes I don't think it's so helpful to proclaim, but to educate. And but we did pass one on the e-bikes, and we did pass one. So I've included in our resolutions the community board's resolution on Community Board 1, and also we have passed a resolution to try bikes off the path of the Hudson River Park. That the lobbying effort on the other side and some of the misinformation has been, we're just, right now I'm taking 6,000 children, 30 different after-school programs. I don't have lobbyists to go and educate Margaret Chin to tell her that e-bikes should be registered and they should go by the rules of the road. But between the influence of your agencies, there might be some way to keep the e-bikes registered. I think there's a security issue there, registered, and at certain speed limits. People are going to get hurt. I don't think any of us thought that we want to prohibit e-bikes from streets in New York, but because we do think it's useful, especially for certain businesses. But they have to go by the road and they have to be registered. It would just work in New York City. It would not work on the pathway of Hudson River Park. And Deborah has been great in trying to hold that trust. Park police have been great in trying to hold that to a minimum, but someone's going to get hurt badly there. And and when I say badly, I say fatality. We've had a number of injuries, but it's coming up, and there's a state hearing on it that's included in your packet. We're going to try to impact that state hearing and do what we can. To thank I think I just want to read and just acknowledge the great work of the trust when it comes to their research on the. I think the organization, the trust, has the capacity, if we build that capacity, to be a real asset for the river in years to come. That no matter what the estuarian becomes, that department, Nicolette's, what she barbecue, she and Carrie have the capacity to into a real important way of monitoring plastics in the river and animal life in the river. With more capacity, they could do a lot for the next number of years. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Bob. Thanks. Anything else, Madeline?
I testified at the New York City Council hearing on e-bikes. We're also in touch with the state Assemblyperson Ramos about the state legislation of allowing e-bikes. E-bikes do not belong on the Hudson River Greenway. They are very dangerous on our greenway. We have many accidents because of e-bikes. We actually give them summons when we can catch them, but it is true that bikers and e-bikers do not stop at the lights. They do not heed warning signs, and we have many collisions because of that. And since it is the busiest bikeway in North America, it is a dangerous place for e-bikes. So anything that you can all do to make sure that these e-bikes do not get to go on the bikeway, that's what we're advocating for. And I also would say to Bob's acknowledgement that even on the streets of New York, they don't stop at red lights, stop signs, and there needs to be some accountability for e-bikes on the streets of New York. And I'm not speaking now as president of the trust, I'm speaking as a New Yorker, but we cannot just pass legislation allowing e-bikes on the streets unless they are also accountable for as drivers are on the streets.
Particular situation we talked about so many times before, where there's such a staging waiting area between Route 9A and the future there with little kids in hand, a short period of time before they get there, and then all of a sudden you got traffic roaring behind, and you have bikes and even stop. It really is a very serious situation.
Yeah, and in our
You're gonna, I hate to say this, some
Yes, and we're conscious of that, and actually in the PEP contract that you approved today, we have added 2 bikeway enforcers for the first time. You're right, we do enforcement on the bikeway, but now we've added people to actually stand at Pier 40 and North Moore Street. So, but it's a problem that's getting more serious.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
I say, maybe we should have the PEP office right on the pier. Right, where they do their stay. Just put it there. Yes.
Okay, there being the places of board actions for today, and thank you all for this. May I please have a motion? All in favor? Aye. And adjourn. Thank you very much, everybody.